Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm It's Robbie Rhino, and in today's video I have 3 replays for you in one of my favourite premium tanks inside the Cold War game mode, the WZ-122. So we're going to start off this video by talking about the bonuses this tank gets as it is a premium tank. Then we'll get talking about the stats of this vehicle and why I think it is still very competitive and very popular even though it's been in the game for some time, and why I think when it's next available you should consider picking this vehicle up. Then we'll get talking about my commander and equipment setup, how that affects the base stats of this tank, and then we're going to get talking about the gameplay, how I like to play this vehicle and why I think it suits players of different abilities and why it can be competitive regardless of the kind of playstyle that you like to adopt with your medium tanks. So what is the WZ-122? Well, it's an Eastern Alliance era 2 premium medium tank, and it's been around for some time. You have a 120mm caliber gun as your primary gun, and you also have a 4-shot ATGM autoloader. You have a pretty substantial interclip reload on that autoloader, but you're capable of dealing quite a hefty amount of damage, and when you are fully loaded with your primary gun and your ATGM autoloader, you have a staggering technical DPM, which I'll talk you through in just a second. So that gives you a brief overview of what this tank is. In terms of the bonuses, as it's a premium vehicle, a 50% silver bonus, so you'll be making a healthy silver profit in this vehicle. A 10% XP bonus and a 25% commander XP bonus, so you can train crews and also make a little bit of XP as well. In terms of the base stats of this vehicle, where you have 2,560 hit points, so a pretty healthy slug, allowing you to trade off your hit points to use your ATGMs and to use your main cannon and outtrade your opponents. And in terms of your view range, 480 meters, which is nothing to write home about, but you can improve that with your setup if you're trying to get some spotting assistance for yourself. But as a very dangerous tank in terms of its firepower, you're going to want to be playing this tank sort of mid-range, supporting your heavy push, and you can be the aggressor, which means that the view range inside the Cold War game mode is kind of irrelevant, especially when you have the True Vision system. You're definitely not going to be mainly playing as a scout, although it can fulfill that role, and it's not the worst kind of view range in the world. In terms of mobility, you have a 690 horsepower engine, which is pretty low, and an 18.43 power to weight ratio, so it does lack in comparison to quite a lot of other medium tanks, but your trade-off is the firepower with this vehicle. You can still go 55 kilometers an hour forwards, however, and 22.5 kilometers an hour in reverse, with a very decent hull traverse of 46 degrees a second, and a pretty decent turret traverse of 36 degrees a second, and your turret traverse improves if you use the gun handling skills on your commander. So in terms of the firepower then of this vehicle, don't be fooled by the name. It has a 120mm primary gun. It fires APF SDS as standard, heat as its secondary ammunition selection, and HE as its third ammunition choice. In terms of the alpha damages, it's 470 on your APF SDS and your heat rounds, and 610 with the HE. Penetration wise, 372mm of penetration on your standard rounds, so it is a little bit low, but again, you have that trade-off in terms of your overall firepower potential. In terms of penetration on your heat rounds, it jumps up to 440mm, and if you can make the HE work, it's 130mm of penetration. In terms of shell velocity, you have great shell velocity on your standard rounds, making it very good for sniping at 1650 meters a second, and it's 950 meters a second on the heat and the HE. A base reload on this primary gun of 8.2 seconds, which means you have a DPM of 3450, 2-second aim time, a 0.36 accuracy, 40 rounds of ammunition. The downside, 5 degrees of gun depression, but again the trade-off is for your overall firepower, and 20 degrees of gun elevation. So that's it in terms of some of the stats of the WZ-122. In that first game, we managed to finish MVP on our team here on Thiepval Ridge with 9k direct damage, 3 kills, 1526 assistance and 470 blocked, and as you can see, a nice healthy profit with or without a premium account. So we're now going to skip on into the second gameplay, finish talking about the stats of this vehicle, and then we are going to get talking about my commander and equipment setup, and then get talking about the more gameplay. So I'll see you over in the second gameplay shortly. So we are now into the second gameplay of today's video, and we are here on Kalbang in the WZ-122 in a standard battle. We have spawned in the southeastern corner and we're going to make our way into position. So whilst I am doing that and the gameplay in the background, let's continue talking about some of the stats of the WZ-122. So we finished talking about the 120mm gun in the last gameplay. We're now going to go on to talk about the ATGM autoloader, and then we're going to get talking about my commander and equipment setup. So the ATGM autoloader on the WZ-122 is a 4-shot ATGM autoloader. It's capable of dealing 3,400 damage in 30 seconds, and you only have the capacity to carry 2 full magazines into battle with you, so that is 8 rounds. The ATGMs themselves have 850 alpha damage, so a very healthy alpha damage. However, the penetration for ATGMs is relatively poor at 460mm, but it's still more than enough to make work on a multitude of targets, and especially against the lighter armoured vehicles like the Leopard variants, light tanks, and maybe some of the other medium tanks that don't have too much of the composite or explosive reactive armour. One thing to watch out for on these ATGMs is that it's got a very slow shell velocity, even for ATGMs at 120 meters a second. So you're going to have to sort of double the amount of lead you would give with other ATGMs of the same era. So that's definitely something to consider. For your 4 rounds, it takes 38 seconds to reload, which means that you have a DPM with these ATGMs of 3,000. And bear in mind, you can use these ATGMs with the primary gun and the multiple weapon system, holding down the ammo select button, and you can switch between your ATGM autoloader and your primary gun without any time penalty. So the reason for dealing that 3,400 damage with this magazine in 30 seconds is because you have a 10-second interclip reload, so fairly long. You definitely want to bear that in mind when you get into engagements. Don't sit out in front of people for 10 seconds, because the chances are you're going to take more than 1 round in exchange for your ATGM, and you want to make sure you're trading with these ATGMs as effectively as possible, if you have to trade at all, that is. In terms of your effective DPM, when you are fully loaded with both your ATGM autoloader and your primary gun, you have an effective DPM of around 6,440, but just bear in mind that is, of course, when you are fully loaded, and it's a technical DPM. You will run out of ATGMs eventually in those longer drawn out battles, but as you can see, the DPM, when you combine both of the firepower elements, is very high, and that's something that makes this tank very special indeed, and very capable for a medium tank. You have kind of tank destroyer-esque sort of firepower in a medium tank with ATGMs, a great primary gun, a very good sniping gun, and it makes it a very effective medium tank if you're looking for something that can put out raw damage very, very quickly indeed. So in terms of my commander and equipment setup, what do I run with the WZ-122? In terms of my equipment, I run the advanced loader, improved ventilation and gun stabilizer, and in terms of my commander skills, I run 6th sense, born leader, rapid loading, steady aim, rapid aim, snapshot, run and gun, armor angling and track mechanic. In terms of my commander skills, 6th sense and born leader as standard, rapid loading to help the DPM. Then I run all 4 gun handling skills because the accuracy or the base accuracy isn't the best, so I want to get it as good as possible. In terms of the armor angling, I run that because I use this crew on heavy tanks as well, and it can come in handy as you can brawl with this vehicle quite often as well. And track mechanic it does help you get your tracks on quicker, and it stops you taking as much damage as you would like. And sometimes you can be tempted to sit out in front of your opponents for a little bit too long, as you do have that pretty long intra-click reload with the ATGM autoloader. So it's something to help you get your tracks back on quicker. But if you wanted to take one of those skills, though, I'd recommend swapping armor angling for a mobility skill or for a concealment skill. So in terms of the equipment, the loader's helping my DPM, ventilation's helping everything about the vehicle from DPM to gun handling, and gun stabilizer to improve the base accuracy. So if you have applied my commander and equipment setup to this vehicle, you'd be looking at a view range now of around 510 meters, so up by 30 meters. In terms of the mobility, nothing's changed apart from your turret traverse, which have improved to 42.7 degrees a second from 36 degrees a second. In terms of the primary gun, with my setup, the reload's gone from 8.2 to 6.14 seconds. That means the DPM shot up to 4,597. 2-second aim time has dropped to 1.88 seconds, and a 0.36 accuracy is now 0.3, so pretty nice accuracy. In terms of the ATGM autoloader, in terms of the reload, it's dropped from 38 to 28.43 seconds, which means the DPM's gone from 3,000 to 3,494, and the effective DPM of this vehicle when I'm fully loaded has gone from 6,440 when I'm loaded with both the primary gun and ATGM autoloader to 8,091, which is the main reason that I absolutely love this vehicle. The raw firepower is so dangerous, and it can be the reason between you living and dying in many different battles, and the reason why you win so many of your engagements, especially if you know where to aim with this vehicle. What else is great about the WZ-122 before we get talking about the rest of this gameplay and the next gameplay? In terms of the armour, there's not too much to write home about. However, you do have 240mm of frontal turret armour, and it's rounded, so it will bounce lower caliber rounds, lower penetration rounds, and at funny angles you can get some nice ricochets. You have 100mm of upper plate and lower plate armour, which when angled at an extreme angle can bounce lower caliber rounds. And one of the best parts about the armour of this vehicle is the 80mm of side armour, meaning it's actually quite an effective side scraper even against higher caliber guns like 105 or 120mm caliber guns. You are able to side scrape. Unless they are able to shoot your engine deck, you should be able to occasionally absorb the rounds into the side of your vehicle, into the tracks. So another plus point for the WZ-122. So here on Kalbang we have managed to pick up 3 kills and 8.2k direct damage so far. We had a pretty hairy situation where it wasn't looking great for us. However, we have now got into the final stages of this battle with 7 minutes and 25 seconds left. It's now 3 against 1, and we do have a platoon of what looks like M50 Ontos on our team and me, and we are chasing down the final opponent in this battle. In a minute I'm going to make the decision to not try and chase this tank around, even though there's a good chance that we would have found the vehicle. I'm going to head back to the base as the M50 Ontos duo in the platoon don't go when I ping the base, so I'll do it myself, which is absolutely fine. I'll go back and we're going to try and draw out this last remaining medium tank, and I think it's the M60A2, so a very dangerous tank. I am susceptible to being a one-shot to that vehicle if it penetrates with its HE or heat, and it can ammo at me very easily with the high caliber gun it has, and also very dangerous ATGMs, and I only have 1,232 hit points left, so I want to get into a position where I'm able to set up an ambush and a defensive location behind some buildings and destructible cover that will hopefully protect me against the firepower from the enemy medium tank. So why do I think the WZ-122 is such a great vehicle? Well, when talking about the stats, I highlighted a lot about its firepower, and that is the main reason why this vehicle is so good. You do lack penetration on your ATGMs and on your primary 120mm caliber gun. However, you make up for it in the DPM that you do have at your disposal and you make up for it in the raw damage output of this vehicle. And it's not so horrific a DPM that it's hard to use like some of the lower caliber rounds on light tanks in the Cold War game mode. It definitely can be made to work, especially if you learn the weak points of enemy vehicles and you try and engage them when they are already into another engagement and they got their side to you or their rear to you, and if they got your front to you, you are just going to have to learn the weak spots. You can track them with your primary gun, get around them, and then you can use your ATGMs to put into the side. It's a great tank for YOLOs that like to come at you in a platoon. You have enough firepower to hold off more than one vehicle, and you do have the firepower to completely obliterate lightly armoured medium tanks, meaning that you are the king of the mediums in that regard. It's got a great sniping primary gun with great shell velocity, and yeah, it's just an all-round very, very decent medium tank with good firepower. One thing I didn't mention was in terms of my consumables. As you can see, I run the large med, large repair, and the enhanced smoke screen. The enhanced smoke screen does get you out of a jam in this vehicle more often than not, and you can use it to stop enemy ATGMs and their ability to control them when they're coming towards you. So it's definitely something to take into consideration. And if you wanted to use the concealment perks, or more concealment perks on your setup, you could get the concealment of this vehicle down to a pretty nice level to be a pretty sneaky medium tank with a pretty nasty firepower. In terms of the situation we're finding ourselves in this particular gameplay, I'm just trying to set up behind some cover, like I mentioned, as we were making our way into this position, because I was pretty sure the enemy medium tank was going to be able to find me in the cap as we are capping this game out. We're just keeping an eye on where this tank is with the sort of true vision system, looking around the buildings. We're going to stay behind this cover. It's going to be a very good ATGM or round he's going to have to fire through these buildings to be able to hit me from this position. So we're going to set up an ambush with an ATGM, and then we have the capacity in this vehicle to switch between our ATGM and our primary gun and hopefully take this enemy medium tank out. So we get an ATGM in there for a lovely 872 damage, another shell into the side, and we've already dealt a substantial amount of damage to him. He doesn't kill me with his shot, so we can reload another ATGM and put it straight through his upper hull. And that's what makes this tank so special, is you have that capability to finish tanks off when they come at you with a lot of hit points, and you were able to take down moments in games like that where we managed to finish with 10k direct damage, MVP on our team, 1684 base experience points, 4 kills, and with the silver event going on, we pick up 2 million silver with or without a premium account in an 11 minutes and 50 second battle, so showing you the raw firepower of the WZ-122. So we're now going to head on into the third gameplay of today's video, and I'll talk you through a little bit more about what makes this tank special. So we are now into the third and final gameplay of today's video, and we are here on Nomonhan in the WZ-122 in a standard battle, and it's around 40 seconds into the battle. We're making our way into position down the 1-2-3 line, so we're going to set up behind this rock here on the high ground. Going to use our primary 120mm gun to start off with, and we get a nice shot there. That Warhammer skin on the Ignis Purgatio gave away that vehicle in that bush with those flamey bits on the side, and we get a nice high roll there for near 500 damage at 499 alpha, and the base alpha damage of 470 on this vehicle means that you do roll above 500 occasionally, and it just feels like you're chunking your opponents down very nicely indeed. It's a pretty substantial alpha damage, and with the pretty nice DPM of this vehicle, even just this gun alone would be a relatively decent premium tank. However, when you add in the 4-shot ATGM autoloader, it just becomes this whole other beast. So you've got this gun you can use like we are here, mid to long ranges, we're sniping away, we're able to whittle the opponents down, and the longer we keep these ATGMs, the more dangerous we become later on in the battle. Of course, if someone was to come and rush me now, or I had a chance to shoot this ATGM that I have loaded now at a vehicle that I know I could penetrate, then I'm definitely going to do so. However, I try and keep the ATGMs for the latter stages, or the mid to latter stages of the battle, because it comes down to those moments sometimes when you are surrounded in games that you aren't winning, or you need to win this clutch engagement with a tank that's on more hit points than you, and to have the ability to switch between a great primary gun and an ATGM that can deal 850 alpha damage, it just feels very powerful indeed. And I think that's what makes this tank so special, is just it's an absolute beast in terms of its firepower potential. It's got decent enough mobility. You can definitely improve it if you choose to improve the mobility aspects of this vehicle. You've got enough view range to be able to boost that up as well, and you have enough concealment to be able to boost your concealment to a level where we're firing now and no one's able to spot us in the center of this map, and we are able to sit on this ridge and deal some nice long range shots here with the great shell velocity this vehicle has. And you also have a pretty healthy slug of alpha damage at 2,560. So yeah, those are the reasons why this tank is so good. You also have that great silver bonus of 50% and that 25% commander XP bonus. You can make silver and train crews. Just a great all-round vehicle for kind of every one of your needs. And you'll remember in the first gameplay of today's video, I said that this tank is a tank that will suit players of different abilities. And what I mean by that is you have the ATGMs for the people that like to use ATGMs, and for those light tank players, medium tank players that are used to firing ATGMs. Although the penetration isn't fantastic, quite a lot of targets you are going to be able to penetrate, especially if you're at a position like we are here, where we just splashed for a substantial amount of damage, and occasionally the ATGMs are going to work. You have 8 ATGMs in total, so 2 full magazines, and it's going to be enough damage to do a little bit of damage in that regard. And then you combine that with this primary gun with not the best penetration, but enough penetration to be able to contest quite a few different targets. And I think it suits a lot of different playstyles, because you have this ability to be a sniper, you have the ability to set up ambushes like we did at the end of the last gameplay, and you have the ability here, like we're doing against this M60A1, to come in with an ATGM and just finish off a tank which is on a pretty substantial amount of hit points. And we still have 1 ATGM left and our primary gun to go after this T72AV. You can chase opponents down, you can defend yourself against incoming pushes from enemy platoons, enemy teams that are coming at you, and you are outnumbered. And yeah, it's just a great all-round vehicle that will suit a lot of different players. Enough side armor to be able to side scrape, turret armor and hull armor that can occasionally bounce a shell from lower caliber rounds, and it's enough to keep you in the battle whilst you are making silver and training a crew. So a very decent premium tank, and one that I highly recommend if you are looking to pick up a medium tank in the near future. Wait until this one's available, and I think it will be a great choice for you. So here on Nomonhan, we have picked up 6.2k direct damage, we've blocked 460, and we've got 52 assistance, 3 kills, and the game isn't looking great. It's 6 versus 8, we are down by 2 tanks, so we're going to have to do everything we can to try and take this one down. We get flanked by a Centurion 9 on full health, and I don't think this guy realises the kind of firepower that we possess, so we're switching between our ATGMs and our main gun. I'm just going to try and angle as best as possible, and just going to have to take the shots if necessary, and that's why I held those ATGMs at the start of the game. It allowed us to take down a full health Centurion 9 in such a quick amount of time, pick up another kill, another couple of thousand damage, and look at the scores. It's now 5 versus 5, so we've taken out a pretty decent tank on the enemy team, although I'm not sure what the player was doing just stopping in front of me. If you don't know what this vehicle is all about, it's definitely not one you want to stop out in front of, especially if you don't have any armour like the Centurion 9. And now we have 2 ATGMs left, plus 21 rounds on this 120mm caliber gun to come round. We're going to choose a different angle of approach, create a crossfire with these vehicles that are situated down here, and we're going to go for the FV-211 to start off with, get one of the most dangerous tanks out of the way early on. We put a very nasty ATGM into the rear of that vehicle. He's on a one-shot and he gets taken out subsequently by the Ignis Purgatio. Our friendly FV-4-211 takes out the Magak 5 and it's now 3 versus 2 in our favour. We can go in on this M60A2. Unfortunately, he takes out our friendly Ignis Purgatio, but we have the firepower to completely cripple and track that M60A2. Now it's 2 against 1. We can bait him round this rock. We do have our gun. We can aim up around this rock, put one into him, decent enough reverse speed to get around the rock, and our friendly FV-4-211 comes in to finish him off. And that's another example of just the raw firepower of this vehicle and the kinds of damages you can do if you perfect your playstyle in this vehicle. So that's a mastery badge. We finished the MVP slot in that game. We pick up 11.2k direct damage as well, make that 11.3k, just 1 damage shy, 4 kills, 52 assistance. We blocked 850 damage, so that would have been enough to take us out potentially in that game had we had received that damage. And we also pick up a substantial amount of silver with this silver op that's going on. The silver with interest, 2.8k without a premium account, and just shy of 3 million silver with a premium account. In a 7 minutes and 40-second battle, we managed to deal 11.3k combined there, showing you why I think this is still one of the best medium tanks and definitely one of the best premium tanks you can get your hands on inside Era 2 of the Cold War Gamer. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video on the WZ-122. Let me know what you think of this vehicle down below. If you like this video, please give a like, that would really help me out. And until next time, I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.